Couples, it took us a long time to learn that becoming better together requires both people being willing to grow through discomfort. As individuals and as a couple. That's where many relationships struggle. How do I know this? Because we're just normal folks and we struggle. And I work with people on a day in and day out basis who struggle with relationships. People want healthier relationships without changing unhealthy habits, unhealthy mindsets. They want trust without consistency. They want connection without communication. They want peace without emotional discipline. They want intimacy without vulnerability, and they want growth without sacrifice. But transformation doesn't work like that, folks. Every healthy relationship eventually forces both people to confront parts of themselves that they still need growth on, right? That they're not happy looking into. We're talking about pride, defensiveness, poor communications, right? Emotional shutdown, control issues. Anybody out there have that? Avoidance. Anybody do that? Selfishness. I know we have a few raising their hands out there. And the approach is uncomfortable because growth challenges your identity. The truth is, marriage doesn't just reveal who you are when life is easy. Being a couple reveals who you are when life gets hard. It reveals how you handle stress, disappointment, pressure, conflict, fear, uncertainty, and even success. Many couples, like ourselves, spend years trying to avoid discomfort, when discomfort is often the very thing that could strengthen the relationship, is what we found. Because discomfort exposes what comfort hides. It reveals unhealthy patterns, right? Turns over the rock of emotional triggers, right? Pulls the curtain back on wounds that haven't healed and you haven't paid attention to as individuals or as a couple. And while that can be painful, it also creates an opportunity for growth.
You know, they say that marriage is one of life's greatest mirrors. And I believe that's true. There were moments in our relationship where discomfort exposed those weaknesses that we didn't want to admit, that Mike didn't want to admit. It was tough for him. Times when frustration, exhaustion, survival mode, stress, and those old wounds affected how we responded to each other. Look, after we were stabbed during that home burglary, we weren't just recovering physically. We were dealing with fear and trauma, responsibilities, caregiving, work obligations, healing, and just trying to maintain a healthy marriage all at the same time. And there were days when we were simply just flat out tired. Not tired of each other, just tired emotionally, mentally, physically. And sometimes when people are exhausted, they don't show the very best version of themselves because we did not. That's why difficult seasons reveal character. Those seasons exposed things that we needed to work on individually and together. How we communicated, how we handled stress, how we supported one another, how we listened to each other. How did we respond when our emotions were running high or running low? And while those moments weren't enjoyable, they were necessary because discomfort often exposes the areas where growth is needed the most. There were days when our relationship looked like a reality TV show. And sadly, we see people drawn more to the drama of life than people who are drawn to healthy marriages. Tells you a lot about our society and what's important to them.
And you couple that with trying to raise a kid in the middle of this and what we were going through and trying to help and inoculate him from our struggles. Super difficult. So what Lisa's saying is so true, but we chose to take the path less traveled. We didn't know it at the time. That's not what we called it. And one of the biggest lessons I learned along the way was this: it's easier to defend yourself than reflect on yourself. When conflict happens, most people immediately look outward. What did Lisa do wrong? Why is she acting like that? Why can't you change? But mature relationships and I put a hyphen under mature, because there's a process, require a different question. What can I learn here? What do I need to improve? What role am I playing in this situation? What's my side of the street to own? One of the biggest breakthroughs in our marriage came when we just stopped focusing on winning arguments and started focusing on protecting our relationship. We agreed that we're on the same side. And that was a real shift from proving a point to protecting the peace between us, which is not very peaceful, but to protect our relationship, do we work together to increase that peace? That's a completely different mindset, right? Because winning an argument but damaging a relationship isn't really winning. It's like I'm on this marathon with her and I get to cross the line and look back and I see just her broken pieces of body and her heart just dismantled. How many couples spend years fighting each other when they should be fighting for one another?
That becomes a game changer in relationships, because mastery in marriage, it isn't built through the emotional highs when everything is great. It's built through the process, repetition, consistency, learning each other over time, relearning each other when things change and you're not the same person you used to be. The small daily habits matter more than most people even realize. Checking in with each other, saying thank you, repairing after conflict, coming together, communicating clearly, listening without interrupting, showing affection constantly. I like that one. Showing affection constantly. Apologizing sincerely.
And I hope for that to continue.
Giving grace. Choosing patience. Learning how your spouse receives love. Supporting each other during those difficult seasons. Those things may seem so small individually, but together they create emotional safety. And emotional safety is one of the strongest foundations a relationship can have. You see, researchers from the University College London found that habits are formed through consistency, not intensity. The same applies in a marriage. Healthy marriages are rarely built through the big moments alone. They're built through the thousands of repeated healthy behaviors over time.
I've also learned, Lisa, that discomfort can either divide our relationship or develop it, and it can for you too. The difference is whether both people are willing to learn through it. Hard seasons reveal patterns. Financial stress reveals priorities. Conflict reveals maturity levels. Pressure reveals character. Disappointment reveals expectations, and adversity reveals commitment. The strongest couples I've ever met aren't couples who never struggled. That is a myth. They're couples who refuse to stop growing. They understood that every challenge has an opportunity to become stronger together rather than drift apart. They constantly are working to bring themselves back together. They stayed teachable. They remained humble. And they kept working on themselves and also working to connect with their partner. Because growth in a marriage or as a couple is never a one-time event, folks. It's a lifelong process, just like your growth and our maturity and our lifespans. We go through the same thing in a relationship, but you can't surrender.
There's actually research around something called post-traumatic growth. Psychologists have found that many people emerge from adversity with a deeper appreciation for life, stronger resilience, greater compassion, and increased emotional strength. We've experienced that ourselves. Not because hardship is good or trauma is desirable, but because growth is possible through that hardship. The same principle applies to your relationships. Some couples become stronger because of what they survived together. Not weaker, stronger. We're living proof. Because the hardship taught us things that comfort never could. It taught us patience and gratitude, and teamwork, perseverance, and what truly matters.
There is a quote that says, "A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor." The same is true in a relationship. Easy seasons are wonderful. Honeymoon phase, getting to know you phase is great. Enjoy them. Celebrate them. Remember them. Be grateful for them. But difficult seasons are often become the places where the deepest connection, vulnerability, and growth occurs. Because growth requires resistance. Athletes build strength through resistance. Character develops through resistance. And guess what? Relationships develop through
resistance.
Not because conflict is the goal, because nobody ever wants conflict, but because growth often happens when challenges force us to face those challenges together.
And becoming someone new together requires letting the old version of yourself fade away. The reactive version, the prideful version, the emotionally avoidant version, the defensive version, the version constantly trying to win instead of connect, or the version seeking validation instead of understanding, the version that's unwilling to admit mistakes. Growth requires release, and release is uncomfortable, but every healthy version of yourself exists on the other side of something that is going to be uncomfortable. That is true for individuals, and that is true for relationships and marriages.
So, people admire strong relationships. Tell me you don't. You look at a couple, they're walking, you see them, they're laughing, they're holding hands, you're like, man, I want that. You see them in a restaurant, they're enjoying each other, it's like they just met, but they've been together for 15 years. People admire that, but they rarely see what created that behind the scenes. They don't see the difficult conversations, the late nights, the emotional hurts, the managing of emotions, right? The coming back around, the forgiveness, the rebuilding, the sacrifices, the compromises, the growth, the setbacks, and the lessons. The years of choosing each other when life wasn't easy. We chose each other instead of something else. Strong relationships are forged the same way strong steel is forged. Through heat and pressure. We never asked for it, but get ready because you're going to get it. They become refined. You build consistency and the process isn't comfortable, but results is so worth it.
So stop asking yourselves, how do we avoid discomfort? And start asking, what is this teaching us? What is this season revealing to us? What needs to grow? What needs to heal? What habits do I need to change? What version of ourselves needs to be released out there? And what do we need to let go of? Because the process you're resisting may actually be building that relationship that you've been praying for. The challenge you're facing today may be preparing you for a stronger tomorrow. And that discomfort you're experiencing, it may be developing that wisdom, patience, maturity, trust, emotional safety, and a deeper connection that you ever had before. Look, we have the mentality of it's us against the world because we refuse to surrender to separation, feuding, or divorce.
So, if life feels uncomfortable right now in your relationship, don't automatically assume your relationship is failing, on the rocks, something major's going on. Don't do that. You may actually be growing, learning, becoming stronger together. The strongest relationships aren't built by avoiding adversity. The talk, the times, the emotion. They're built by facing adversity together and refusing to stop growing. So couples, stand firm.
And never surrender.
Till next time.
See ya.